Sun-Mars opposition today. The annual Sun-Mars opposition. And it is something that brings tensions to the surface regarding two aspects of self, two aspects of ego. The more mature identity that we choose to put on, and Mars, more the primary aspects of the ego, the knee jerk aspects of self. So we have knee jerk versus intentional aspects of our uh, aspects of our firepower that are trying to balance with this opposition. And with oppositions, we see the tension outside of ourselves. There's something external that occurs, and then we react to that. And so we want to really ask ourselves, are we directing our free will? Shh, girls. Shh, there's nothing there. I have to shut the shades. Hold on. Things might erupt around here. A pack of palms might erupt, and then I'll let them outside if that does happen, but be prepared. And this is something we should all be prepared for with Sun-Mars oppositions, is these eruptions that happen outside of ourself, energetic eruptions, ego eruptions, um, even where we can have a contest of internal wills. And this is more likely because Mars is retrograde in Cancer. Mars is having us review our aggression. A lot of aspects of the id in our willpower and our primary knee-jerk reactions need to protect ourselves, our armor. Mars is the armor. And so when it is in an opposition to the sun like this, we look at how is our armor, our persona, and our more chosen self-expression in tune or not. And how can we take responsibility for getting that on track? We have epiphanies with oppositions. So we get to choose, we get to decide what we want and how are we going to get it. Mars is how we get things, how we act on our passions. And are we in opposition to our own self-interest? This is a primary focus of how to diffuse that feeling of enemy without looking at where is the primary source of where's the enemy within, where's the tension of the conflict within. Girls, leave that cat alone. Leave her alone. Violet. I know where the tension is within here. It's between cats and dogs. I wish they would get used to her. I seriously do wish they would get used to that cat. The cat pays them no mind, but the girls have made a habit of being reactive when they see her. It's turned into a kind of a game of habit. Again, another Mars thing in Cancer. What are the habitual games that we play that are in service to self-protection, that are in service to avoiding a deeper experience of connection or intimacy or vulnerability or belonging? So how is our armor keeping us from connecting Finding that sense of belonging is safety, security, continuity. Because, and this can be a key day. It rises to the surface in an epiphany and an opposition. How am I working against myself, or have I been working against myself? How have some of my internal patterns, my internal stories, my habitual emotional patterns, because that's what Cancer is. Moon rules Cancer. It's our habitual emotional patterns, and we have our armor. How is the way I am protecting myself, defending myself in service to these emotional, into defeating or outworn or unexamined habitual emotional patterns? That's what I'm getting at. And so this is a key day, that we can uh, have such a surge of tension, inner conflict, competition, and so it can bring to the surface these themes surrounding how we defend ourselves. And we may find that we're defending ourselves against letting go of an outdated version of ourselves. That's the Sun. And we can look at, how do I have a chip on my shoulder? Or how has my ego been running the show? How's my need for applause, validation, feeling good about myself? How is that overtaking my heart space? How is that overtaking the guidance that I get, or what I know is good for me? The soul and spirit stuff, Sun. Um, yeah, I like to talk about oppositions quite a bit, because these are our werewolf moments. I did talk about it quite a bit this morning in the forecast. So I have a few minutes if you guys want to pop a question or two in there. And my study group is going on. My 2025 study group is beginning in February. So if you're interested in that, contact me at my website on the contact form. And I'm still deciding, based on who's interested, exactly what it's going to look like this year. So we may be teaching out of a variety of texts, thinking about a book club, weekly self-help group, like group therapy. That's been a really successful hour that we've all really enjoyed in 2024. Synastry class and natal chart interpretation. So those tend to be the bones of what we're doing in 2025. But we can be flexible depending on what it is that we want to learn. Oh, yay, Astrology Bliss. You'll be joining us. All right, so I have a few things here. All right, I don't have a ton of time, but we'll see. Ariana solar return has first house Sun square, 10th house Mars. I like to think it's constructive. Certainly. Okay, so your friend has it worst because she has Pluto involved in there. So you don't have the breakdown and reform and the need to outgrow the current identity, so you can have a better version or experience of yourself, because Pluto's not involved. First house Sun square, 10th house Mars. but that's in the solar return. So, hmm. Well, Mars is probably going to be square your sun for a while if it's showing up. Well, depending on, yeah, when your birthday is. That's true. It may not be as heavy as it is for the people that are catching it in retrograde. But it's showing how this is a touchy year. This is a year in general that you need to look at how you're defending yourself, um, how you're reacting to the idea of offense. Oh, okay. So last October, this happened in Libra. All right. So when we have a solar return chart and it has a hard aspect in it, it's something that's showing us that for about a year period of time, that is a conflict that we're dealing with in our nature, in our experience, in our world. So you have to really watch how you leap and fight before you look and see, is it really warranted? The type of response that you feel compelled, to give. So becoming more vulnerable in terms of not responding to every slight. The love shack. Can I talk about Cancer and Capricorn opposition? Well, they're the consequence of each other. Every sign polarity is, one is a consequence of the other. So we have the inner life and our emotional self, family, intimacy. That's all Cancer stuff. It has a lot to do with our equilibrium, our sensitivities, and our ups and downs, uh, emotionally, because the moon waxes and wanes and it has these, very different phases, and it represents the feminine aspect of things. The sun is something that is the yearly cycle. So it is the masculine aspect of things. It takes longer. It doesn't have these frequent, changeable periods of time. It works more like clockwork. Saturn also is like clockwork. This is also a balance to that feminine changeability or moodiness. Saturn is time, regularity, what is stable, slow, and has more of a definition to it. Kind of the logical, grounded side of things that it can be that balance point to Cancer and the moon. So the moon is what we need in terms of a home and the kind of emotional security that or security in general that we need, and Saturn is what we go out in the world and do, the kind of home that we build, the kind of status that we also achieve in pursuit of those safety needs. Ariana, you can't wait for Saturn to get out of your 12th. Oh, yeah, I have to say that Saturn transiting the 12th, this is something we talk about a lot in my apprentice group. Saturn transiting the 12th being one of the worst transits of our life. It is rough. That is a period of time where we can really struggle with nihilism. A lot of things that we've worked for are just kind of disintegrating or washing away. That can be a very depressing un unstructured time in our life, because Saturn is the, the progress, the boundary, the work we put into things. And it's coming into an area of life that's about rest, relaxation, detachment, disintegration. This is not a hard working place that is worried about a material outcome. So it when we have if we could all plan for this, we would all be better off. If Saturn is in the 12th, ideally, if you can, take that 3-year period of time off. Don't plan to be moving mountains. Plan to be resting. Plan to be hiking. Plan to be focusing more on surrendering and spirituality rather than acquisition. And if we figure that in to what we're doing, I think we would all be happier. And this can also be the periods of time where what we're doing, if we are not ourselves in tune or in service to what's real or true or complete or whole or the divine, what it is that we're doing, Saturn stuff, this is when it can really fall apart. And we can encounter a great deal of inertia, or just things fall apart or just don't really come together. And more debt. It's going to be a period of time where we're also, paying more debt, karmic debts. Things are, well, justice is being served. I know now everybody's looking at their charts like, oh God, when is this going to happen? I know, seriously, if you could, like, just sleep all the way through it, or go on a space trip where you go into a chamber and just sleep the whole time, I don't know that I would, teach against that. Alrighty, let's see. What's the difference between kites and mystic rectangles in regards to oppositions? So when we have a kite or a mystic rectangle, we have key outlets. We have what I call escape valves coming off of those oppositions, which are key points of conflict or contention within ourselves. Because we are one way, but we're also totally another way. And so when we have oppositions that have trines or sextiles coming off of them, if they're connected to points of ease, it makes it a lot more likely that we're going to solve those oppositions, because it's connected to so many points in our personality, that conflict within us, that lack of integration, even that competition within us, is connected to so many points in our nature or our personality that are functional, that are working, that are healthy, that are operational. We are getting a goal or need met as indicated by those combination of factors, planets. So when we you could look at it like a problem that's connected to positive points of potential solution. So it's not a closed circuit. When you have difficult aspects that are only connected to other difficult aspects, or you have a difficult aspect that's hanging out in space on its own, it's a closed circuit of belief and behavior. And so it takes more energy and more insight and, typically more mistakes to be able to integrate that closed circuit, to bring it into the fold of the other circuits that are going on. So we have one total functioning full circuitry, is the goal. Total alignment integration of the different aspects of ourself. So mystic rectangles and kites, even minor grand trines, these can be blessed things because it can make a closed circuit of potential you know, con- contention or conflict or failure within ourselves. It make it much, much easier to solve that. Mhm. All right. All right. One more. What about when Pluto transits your natal Saturn? Any Pluto transits to Saturn are going to increase the ambition within ourselves when it comes to making something of ourselves, or procuring more comfort or riches or material gain. So our greed and our ambition goes up. And so with the conjunction, we're starting out a new cycle of how are we better going to identify and get those things that we feel enrich our life and contribute to our overall resources and material security. Uh, so we are chasing the dollar, hungrier for hungrier to manifest or materialize some of our uh, the things that we want in life, the tangible things in our life. Mhm. Hey Sarah, thank you. I'm glad you could join us here today. All right, I have time for one more question here. Thank you, Daniela. Okay. Sun transiting in the 8th, so you're going to get that at the same time every year. The sun transits the same house at the same time every year, depending on which house system you use. um, that'll determine when the sun comes in and out of a particular house. But if you're not switching around when it comes to house systems, dividing the chart into 12 equal houses, then the sun is going to come into the same house at the same time for you every year. So as it goes through the 8th house, we are looking We're going through a period of time where we are taking mm, a deeper look for a period of 4 weeks or so. A deeper look at how our passions and our need for depth are merging, our depth of connection, how that is happening in our life. So it's a month of those themes. As the sun is transiting through any house, that whole month is about the themes of that particular house. So we can be dealing with more of our deeper fears, attachment issues, issues about loss. Uh, there can also be more emotional up and downs as the sun is transiting through the eighth. All right, guys, that's what I've got time for. I will catch you tomorrow. Be careful with your reactivity today. That whole month, this whole month. Well, I don't know about the entire month, but definitely up until now, we've had some very touchy themes. The moon coming into Cancer, a retrograde Mars, which itself is very emotional. And now we have the Sun Mars opposition. So there's a few things that put us in a position where we need to be careful that we don't step into any bear traps. And if we do, be very careful to get yourself out of it before you go too crazy. So, see you later.